The radio message was unintelligible, just a raw, guttural scream that broke through the static of the Abu Dhabi night. 3 days ago, Lando Norris crossed the finish line at Yas Marina to become the 2025 Formula One World Champion, ending a season that nearly destroyed him. He didn't win the race, nor did he need to. The margin between glory and failure was just 2 single points. This is the story of how the boy who once claimed he didn't have the killer instinct finally found it, and why his war for the crown has only just begun. For years, the paddock whispered that Lando Norris was too nice to be a world champion. Critics pointed to Russia 2021, where he slid off the track in the rain, or the endless string of second-place finishes that earned him the nickname Lando No Wins. That narrative died on Sunday night. Norris is now the 35th driver in history to wear the crown, joining the likes of Senna, Schumacher, and Hamilton. The 2025 season wasn't a dominance, but a street fight. He didn't cruise to the title like Max Verstappen did in 2023, but instead clawed it back from the brink of collapse. The 423 points he scored this year came from blood, sweat, and a refusal to crack when the entire world was waiting for him to fail. To understand the 2025 championship, you have to go back to May 2024. Miami was the spark. Before that race, Norris held the record for the most podiums without a win in F1 history. When he finally took the checkered flag that afternoon by beating Verstappen on pure pace, something shifted. It wasn't just a trophy, but permission to believe. McLaren had been languishing at the back of the grid just 2 years prior, yet finally delivered a car capable of winning. That victory in Miami didn't just break a curse. It accessed a beast. The 2024 season ended with Norris as runner-up, but the message was clear that the Red Bull dynasty was no longer invincible. The 2025 season opened with McLaren looking untouchable. Norris won the Australian Grand Prix and established himself as the man to beat. The MCL38 was a rocket ship, and for the first time, Max Verstappen was the one complaining about grip and balance. Dominance brings a different kind of pressure, though. By mid-season, cracks began to show. Small errors in qualifying, hesitant starts, and strategy calls that played it too safe cost Norris valuable points. The media began to ask if he could handle the front-runner pressure. Then came the internal threat. Oscar Piastri wasn't just a supporting actor anymore, but was rewriting the script, stealing wins and refusing to play the role of the obedient number 2. August 2025 brought the lowest moment of the campaign. The Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort was supposed to be Verstappen's party, but Norris had the pace to spoil it. Then on lap 44, the engine let go. A mechanical failure left his car smoking by the side of the track, and Norris with his head in his hands. It felt like the end. That DNF dropped him 34 points behind his teammate Oscar Piastri, who went on to win the race. The championship lead was gone, the momentum was shattered, and the paddock chatter turned brutal. They said Norris had missed his window, and claimed Piastri was the real future of McLaren. Norris flew home separately that night, while isolating himself from the team, to stare into the abyss of another lost season. Great champions are defined by how they respond to disaster. Norris didn't lash out at the team, but went to work. The turnaround began in the Americas. In Mexico City, he drove with a cold fury we hadn't seen before, forcing his way past Verstappen and hunting down the Ferraris to take a key win. Then came Brazil. Interlagos has a history of deciding titles, and while it didn't decide this one, it saved it. In torrential rain, Norris was in a league of his own. He danced the MCL38 through the puddles while others spun off, taking victory and swinging the momentum back in his favor. Those 2 races erased the deficit and put him back in control. He stopped driving to survive and started driving to kill. Just as the title seemed within grasp, the sport threw a curveball that no one saw coming. The Las Vegas Grand Prix was a disaster of historic proportions. Norris finished second and Piastri fourth, but hours after the champagne had dried, the FIA stewards summoned the team. Illegal plank wear meant both McLarens were disqualified. In an instant, the points haul evaporated. It was a gut punch that left the team reeling. Instead of extending his lead, Norris watched the gap to Verstappen shrink to almost nothing. The championship fight that should have been settled was now wide open again. It proved that in Formula One, you are never safe until the trophy is actually in your hands. The pressure was now suffocating. Heading into Qatar, the penultimate round, McLaren needed perfection. Instead, they choked. A strategy call to leave Norris out on old tires during a safety car period backfired spectacularly. He was a sitting duck, swallowed up by the pack and tumbling to a fourth-place finish, while Verstappen capitalized on the error. The lead that had been built up over months was slashed to just 12 points. 12 points was the buffer Norris carried into the final race. A single DNF, a collision, or a bad pit stop in Abu Dhabi would hand the title to Max. The papaya rules of letting the drivers race were suspended because it was now survival mode. We used to talk about the friendship between Lando and Max, but that didn't survive 2025 intact. When you fight for the same piece of tarmac at 200 miles per hour, kindness is a weakness. We saw the flashpoints in Austria, in Austin, and in Mexico. The contact, the radio outbursts, and the cold shoulders in the cool-down room were constant. Verstappen, hunting his 5th consecutive title, used every trick in the book to unsettle Norris. He pushed the limits of the regulations, forcing Norris to either back out or crash. Unlike 2024, this year Norris didn't back out. He put his elbows out. He realized that to beat a monster, you have to become one yourself. While Max was the external threat, Oscar Piastri was the danger sleeping in the next room. The young Australian didn't care about Norris's title hopes, since he cared about his own. Finishing 3rd in the championship with 410 points, Piastri was mathematically in the hunt until the very end. The tension in the McLaren garage was palpable. There were moments when Piastri refused to yield, moments where papaya rules looked more like a civil war. In Abu Dhabi, Piastri qualified right behind Norris as a shadow that wouldn't go away. Going into 2026, this is the dynamic that will define the team. McLaren has 2 number 1s, and that is a recipe for an explosion. The stage was set at Yas Marina, with Norris on 408 points and Verstappen on 396. The math was simple, since a podium for Norris would seal it, regardless of what Max did. But Max did what Max does, and dominated. Verstappen took the lead early and disappeared into the distance, winning the race comfortably. That put the pressure entirely on Norris to finish 3rd or better. If he dropped to 4th, the title was gone. It sounds easy in a McLaren, but with Charles Leclerc's Ferrari hunting him down in the final laps, the air in the garage was thick enough to choke on. Every corner was a potential disaster. Every gear shift had the weight of a season behind it. The closing stages of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix were torture. Norris was running 3rd, with his teammate Piastri in 2nd, and Verstappen miles ahead in 1st. The threat was behind. The Ferrari of Charles Leclerc was closing in, stripping tenths of a second off the gap with every sector. The radio messages from Norris were manic as he asked for gaps, tire status, and reassurance.
Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm. What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
He wasn't racing for the win, but was racing for his life. He had to trust the hard tires to hold on. He had to be perfect. One lockup or one wide moment meant the championship would slip through his fingers to the Red Bull driver waiting at the finish line. When Lando Norris crossed the line in P3, the release of emotion was almost violent. He had done it. But looking at the final standings shows Norris with 423 points and Verstappen with 421 points. 2 points. After 24 races, 6 sprints, and thousands of laps, the entire season came down to the difference between a P3 and a P4 finish. If Leclerc had passed him, Max would be a 5-time champion today. It was the closest title fight since 2021, but this time there was no controversy and no safety car drama. Just a driver holding his nerve when it mattered most. The tears in the cockpit were real. The Lando No Wins kid had just beaten the most dominant driver of his generation. Winning the first one is hard, while defending it is impossible. That's the old saying, and for Norris, 2026 is going to be a nightmare. He will have the number 1 on his car, and that paints a target on his back. Max Verstappen does not take losing well. We saw it in his post-race demeanor with the forced smile and the cold eyes. He will come back in 2026 with a vengeance, and Red Bull will be throwing everything at regaining their throne. The bigger problem might be the car itself. With the 2026 regulation changes looming on the horizon, McLaren has to balance developing the current car with preparing for the new era. One slip in development and the champion slides back into the midfield. The reality for 2026 is that McLaren cannot keep 2 alpha drivers happy. Oscar Piastri finished just 13 points behind Norris in the final standings. He knows he has the speed to beat the champion. He knows that if a few strategy calls had gone his way, he would be the one celebrating right now. Next season, Piastri will not be looking to help Lando defend his title, but will be looking to take it. We are staring down the barrel of a Hamilton-Rosberg situation. The team harmony that Zach Brown built is about to be tested to its breaking point. If they take points off each other again, they might just hand the title back to Max. Lando Norris is no longer the joker of the paddock. He is the world champion. That title changes how you drive, how you speak, and how you are perceived. He has proven he can lead a team, weather a storm, and beat the best. But the history books are filled with one-hit wonders. To become a legend, he has to do it again. The 2025 season was his arrival, while the 2026 season will be his test. With new regulations reshaping the sport and a grid that is closer than ever, the Norris era has officially begun. The question now isn't if he can win, but how long he can reign. The 2025 season will be remembered as the year the boy became the man. Lando Norris faced down the ghosts of his past, the pressure of the present, and the giants of the sport to claim his place at the top. It was messy, stressful, and absolutely magnificent. As the sun sets on Abu Dhabi and the preparations for 2026 begin, one thing is certain, that Formula One has a new king, and he wears papaya. If you enjoyed this deep look into Lando's championship journey, hit like and subscribe for more F1 history in the making.